Okay. Now remember, let's not lose sight of the thread that we're looking at the double. Okay. Now how does Ehrman achieve the enchantment? Does he come along from as like some god from outside and drop this mist over the eyes of people? No. This is accomplished through the threefold double complex. Remember, we're trying to come awake to what Steiner meant when he said the time of the fifth post-Atlantean epoch is about us waking up to what enters the world through us. And the enchantment, the Ahrimanic enchantment, the Ahrimanic deception, the rise of materialism entered into the human social stream through human beings. And this was done because the doubles are parts of hierarchies, gloves within gloves within gloves. So you could say that the Ahrimanic and the Luciferic cooperated at a certain time, such that inside human beings and inside particularly the leading lights, as remember there was a big war when science first arose, when natural philosophers arose. The Catholic Church kept burning them at the stake and torturing them and stuff like that, which is a whole other story. But anyway, it's possible for this influence of the doubles to act in concert and cause a whole civilization kind of turn and shift its point of view. Okay? Because the same type in general of perceptual temptation, perceptual confusion, and intelligence as well. Remember, Ehrman is an intelligence, and so is Lucifer. They're a kind of intelligence. So the doubles working inside the human being cause something to shift. And one of the ways they did with this was they inspired in human beings to use, as they stepped away from original participation and into the onlooker and separation, certain language conventions. And this is what Don Cruz has written about in this wonderful book. Let's just take one of them. Mechanism. Okay. We looked at the natural world as a clockwork, and that was the idea that was inspired in us through the intelligence of the double. It's a clockwork. And this clockwork idea actually was a bleed into of the older idea that God, created everything. So as the scientist is looking at this, in the beginning, you have to keep in mind that Newton was an alchemist, and for most of his early life he believed in God. It isn't that these people didn't believe in God. What they argued with, the Catholic Church, was what it meant, the things that they were observing, And they argued about things like, whether the stars were whatever they were, and what the celestial sphere was about, and all kinds of other things. But the scientific impulse was trying to, because of the onlooker separation, because we now stood outside it and didn't participate anymore, was trying to look at the natural world and see in the natural world what the natural world had to say, rather than sort of impose upon it this divine set of ideas. And people didn't stop believing in God in the beginning. So when they talked about nature as being a mechanism, or the world as being a mechanism or a clockwork, they weren't saying there wasn't a creator. The creator made the clockwork. But at the same time, the idea of mechanism contained this kind of shredding of the ideas that were older, which was that everything that happened because of the activity of spiritual beings. So ideas about the elemental kingdoms, the gnomes and the undis and the sliffs and the salamanders and so on and so forth. these nature beings and etc. started sliding away. And of course, this is a very complicated thing. It wasn't simple at all. But anyway, through the use of certain ideas and through the use of certain language conventions, then you got this beginning of this wedge being formed between God being involved in things and not being involved in things. And as time goes on, the idea of mechanism more and more is separated from the idea that there's a designer of the mechanism. And what Don Cruz does is he argues with the evolutionary biologist, and he says, well, you really can't do that. You can't look at things and say they're a mechanism and have that mean anything, because the word itself is something created. You can't call what goes on in your ideas of evolutionary biology as a description of something mechanical, because anything mechanical was made. Okay? But anyway, that's what goes on in evolutionary biology. We've been captured by an idea. Remember, Steiner says you must be able to confront an idea, otherwise you'll fall into its bondage. So you have a whole phase of civilization in which we're in bondage to this idea of the mechanical universe, the universe without the presence of the divine. And all of this is actually meant to free us, so that any relationship we develop with the divine in the future, as we develop final participation, is the way Barfield puts it, is a choice. We include the divine into our world conception because we choose to put it there. Now, there's more that needs to be said about that. And I'm going to have to pause again, and we'll come back.